Hello, everyone. I'm the entertainment editor over at thekoalition.com. I am Dana Abercrombie. I am here to talk to you about the very first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was very lucky to be able to see the show in advance, and my goodness, it is hands down so far one of the best shows that the MCU has produced. And as we know, even though this is the second show, this is essentially their first show. This is the first show that they kind of filmed before COVID happened, and they got put on pause because of COVID and because of the earthquakes over in Puerto Rico. It kind of caused them to have to rearrange things, which is why we got WandaVision first instead of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But this show had a lot of pressure upon it. It was, like I said, the first TV show in the MCU universe, and they really wanted to show people that we can take these characters that we know and love from the big screen and kind of narrow everything down and kind of focus on them, and to really bring such growth and character development in the show. And that essentially at its core is what the Winter Soldier and what Falcon and the Winter Soldier is. It is a show that shows the essence of these characters. Yes, they are superheroes. Yes, they will go out there and save the day. They are villains. They will always be villains. But who are these characters once the costume comes off? Who are these characters when they are finally, at home and you're just stuck there with their own thoughts? And this was, like I said, an experience that I truly appreciated, because it shows not only the growth of these characters throughout, the what we've seen in the MCU, but where they're at now and how those lessons or situations has kind of made them into the people that they are today. So let's talk a little bit, spoiler free, about what you can expect from the first episode, which is 47 minutes and 17 seconds long. It is just the right amount length, and it explains a lot. There aren't any times where it gets too slow. It isn't where you're like, what's going on? You can follow everything that's going on very easily. You're excited for what you're going to see, and you're longing for more. And that's what really makes a great TV show, when you want to continue more. But as we know, Marvel has that wonderful model and that wonderful makeup where they're like, nope, we're going to give you little bite-sized pieces, and then you come back next week for more, and your little appetites. And it has this ability to really utilize that whole weekly program that we've all, this is not anything new. This has been around forever, but it has the ability to really utilize those breaks in order to tell such a great story, and for us to just keep wanting more, but allowing ourselves to digest what we just seen. So let's just dive into this really quick on what you can expect in the upcoming series that I am describing as wonderful. So essentially, and if you see me look down because of notes, essentially, Captain America is now, he's not there. We know what happened to Captain America, and we know how this kid really play heavily into, the legacy that is Captain America. And we know that, he went on to live his wonderful life. He went on with Peggy, and he got that dance with Peggy. We saw him come back as an old man. We don't know how old he is, but he's pretty old. Um, and we can assume that, he's dead, but we know exactly what is going on with that whole situation. And let me just jump into here really quickly. So, like I said, he's an old man, Captain America. He's not in the show. Essentially, he is missing. Sorry, he is missing. And when we go into the show, that whole honeymoon phase of, waiting of the loved ones coming back after 5 years, and the celebrations and the "we love you, Captain America," it's kind of died down. We're over the honeymoon phase, and we're just stuck into reality. And now it's just, the world is still in shambles. It's been 5 years. They had to deal with a lot. It's not just loved ones missing, people who ran government, the economy, strategies, things that you would never think of, is now literally in shambles. You have a fractured government, you have torn allies, and you have the economic infrastructure that's basically barely holding on at this point. And people are starting to lose hope. What is there to hope for? They're wondering if things will ever get better. And there will always be enemies. And in this one, we're introduced to a new set of enemies, or in a new set of group. And the thing is that with this show, it is not so much about the enemies, but it's it's there. This is still a really beautiful, high octane, in that vein of movie type of show. But it's also, like I said, it's about what everyone is going through individually. And as we saw in WandaVision, the Avengers are basically scattered around. They're dealing with their own set of traumas. Like I said, with WandaVision, with her dealing with the grief, and they are trying to put out their own fires. Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes is basically returned to a life that audiences barely get to see. And that's we finally get to see them home. What is it like for them to just be at home, to be at their natural self? And we know that Sam, he is the son of Louisiana. He's a Louisiana native. Um, he is forced now to confront his life, where his family has basically moved on without him. 5 years, nobody knew what was going on. And it's not just the 5 years. He is a person who it is assumed that he left his family to pursue a career in the service, and that's beautiful, and he's serving his country. But at the same time, the family kind of feel like, well, you're out there fighting superheroes, you abandon us. And he has to now come home and to kind of fix that. But how do you fix something where people have already moved on without him? And Bucky, he is the son of basically the dead. Everyone that he knows is dead. This is a man who's around 104 years old, and he's forced now to confront his life without all the fighting, without anything. He's now forced to sit down and to confront the fact that he has no family, he has no friends, he doesn't have his arm anymore, he doesn't have relationships, either it be personal or romantic. He doesn't have that. Captain America, when he left, he was able to live that full life that Bucky never got. He had that opportunity to walk away from it all and to be with his Peggy. And Bucky, he's never experienced that. And it's, you kind of really wonder, when was the last time was you really happy? And it's easy for everyone to give up hope at this point. And parts of the world, and you see in the story, they have. But for Sam and Bucky, they are determined to make things right in both their professional careers and also at home. As we know, Bucky is now, he was the Winter Soldier. He was a killer. He was brainwashed. There's a lot of things that's going on with Bucky. And now that he's no longer the Winter Soldier, he's forced to be James Buchanan. And this was a man who's searching for peace, the peace that he once knew for when he was in Wakanda, when he was with Shuri. Remember, there's a scene in the movie where he's like she's like, oh, Sergeant Barnes, and he's like, no, call me Bucky. There's that moment where he's at peace, where Black Panther, rest in peace Chadwick Boseman, he says, I know what you're searching for, and that's peace. And that's something that he's just kind of always been searching for. And so he's trying to make amends to the lives that he's ruined. And in therapy, you kind of think of it as the 12-step program, where you have to approach people and like, I'm sorry for what I did. And so that's kind of the take of what they do with Bucky's route. Now, Sam, we know, when we last saw Sam, he was given the shield by old man Captain America, old America. And he was saying, this is not right. I don't want to be Captain America. This is not someone who's like, yeah. This is someone who said, it feels like someone else's. This is not something that he is wanting to do. This is a role where, you looked at Steve Rogers. He wasn't just, Captain America. He was the leader of the band. He was the leader of these guys. And Sam kind of viewed him as, you're my captain. no captain, no captain. But basically, he doesn't want that. He is instead, he struggles to, he's at home now. He struggles to step in as a provider. Like I said, the family doesn't need, nor they really want him. It's great. Hey, you're around here, but I have other things that I'm doing with my life. And to them, he's not the Falcon, but he is the brother and the uncle who just left. And now they expect to, for him, he expects that he's going to be able to take charge. And they're like, no, the kids that he once, the nieces and the nephews that he once knew that were, babies are now grown. He's been away, he's been snapped away. And now you're coming back to this huge life that you have to readjust to. And so it seems like now, like Sam is grappling with putting together the pieces, back together in his world. And this is a world that there are moments where, like, yeah, you're Captain America, but in this show, I'm sorry, I said Captain America, I meant Falcon. But in this show, it's like this world just sees him as another black man. We know who Falcon is, and that's great, but yeah, you're still just a black man. And so he is now tackling with that as well. The show's going to tackle with that as well. And like I said, just like WandaVision, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is an intimate look, not into just superhero lives, but humans that are struggling with their own form of grief. They're grieving for the lives that they could have had they never become superheroes, and they're grieving for the lives that they could have had if, they never were snapped away or blipped. I don't like that term. I like snapped, but whatever. If they were blipped away, so they're going through it. They're going through the struggle. They're going through the emotions, and it just seems like these two characters, that really had very brief moments in Civil War. With this show, it is a deep dive into their relationship, which is described as love hate. They equally hate each other, but they kind of realize that they respect each other because they have a shared trauma. They're both soldiers. They've both been snapped. They're both dealing and struggling with life, and that kind of brings them together. And they're going through their shared trauma and PTSD. This is a show that is about PTSD and accepting the new reality. They're trying to make sense of the new reality. Bucky, like I said, he's 104 years old. How do you adjust to a world where you've come back, you're from like what, the 30s, and you're now adjusting to this world where everything is kind of just this brand new to you. The entire time he was kind of brainwashed or he was frozen. So it's like, how do I become me in a world that's just a whole brand new century, essentially? And it's him trying to find out that and to navigate that world. And it's really, overall, this show is incredibly refreshing to watch characters that we followed for almost a decade kind of get a chance to settle into themselves and just breathe, and like I said, this is told in 6 episodes, with the first one being 47 minutes and 17 seconds long. The series, it manages, like I said, it is a deep dive into them, but at the same time, it manages to bring in that big budget action film. I was watching this on my TV, and I really felt like I was sitting in the theater when it came to these action sequences, that it was just really incredible. I mean, it opens up right away with the criminals and the LAF and how they're determined for life to return back to how it was during the snap, and not only for profit, but they want a world without borders. And you see the ripple effect of what Endgame had. And this is the moment where Falcon says, trust me, every time something gets better for one group, it gets worse for another. And there's so many layers to that. And then we just jump into this incredible opening action sequence that's truly breathtaking, and it thrust us into this battle between, you got Falcon, you got the Red Wing, you got the troops on the ground, and they're trying to take down this terrorist organization. And each moment is just so incredible because you see them, kind of the fighting and the hand-to-hand combat, and there's the big explosions, and they're taking their fight into the skies, and they're trying to stop them from making it to the border of the Liberian air base because then they don't have any kind of jurisdiction, which also shows that the Sokovian Accords, they're still intact. And the cinematography is just incredible, and it follows the action just very seamlessly. And you have camera angles, and it dips and dives and swoops, and you see there's so many different things going on at once, but it never feels confusing. It's never too jarring. The editing is amazing, and there's big, powerful explosions, and people die. And I'm not saying like, oh my God, this person died. I meant like, during an action sequence when you're after trying to stop terrorists, people are going to die just in general. You got people shooting at you, you got missiles flying. So you do see, people die. And also, Bucky is a killer. That is something that we've always known. He's a killer. And it's really gritty how they show it. It's kind of realistic. You have the big bombs and you have the big explosions, and then you have these hand-to-hand combat moments. You have the snap necks moment. You have, was we all seen in the trailer, the fist through the wall kind of moments, and people die. The villains die. Not saying in general, but just overall, villains die. And so this was really just amazing, and it shows that that the Marvel Studios, they really know what they're doing overall. They know how to bring that essence of the big budget film, and they also know how to make it quiet for TV. And it's just overall is just something that should be the blueprint for all shows in general. And even if you really didn't like WandaVision that much, you do have to at least I hope so, kind of admit that they were able to bring something that was relatable to everyone, and that was grief. And you saw how grief really struck down Wanda and how it really affected her. And unlike, say, WandaVision, this is really grounded in reality. It tackles a lot of issues of today. Being a Black man in America, what is that like? There's financial issues. There's who am I issues. There's that kind of self-discovery. There's all really weird, awkward moments where you see Bucky is trying to blend in with society. There's a moment where he's kind of talking to a girl. And, so, you get that shy and bashfulness, but it's like, I'm also a killer too. So it's just a really wonderful, grounded sense of reality and balance. And like I said, it really dives deep into therapy, which is something both of these characters need, and they've needed it for a while, especially Bucky. But this is something that is truly just overall incredible at what they did. And this, is inspired by a lot of buddy cop movies. It was inspired by Bad Boys, and we get that in there as well. So you get to see a lot of growth, and the characters are evolved. You see Bucky now with a sense of humor, which is kind of really awesome. And you see that their hatred for each other is still standing, but they kind of grow into this friendship that is just really wonderful. And it's been revealed in several interviews. I have interviewed Kevin Feige. That'll be up soon. But basically, he was explaining, along with the writer, Michael Spellman, that this is a show that will tie into other shows. They're not going to say all of the shows, because then, you don't want to spoil everything all at once. You like that nice element of surprise. But this is going to have ramifications in the MCU. And Sam and Bucky, I keep calling them Sam and Bucky, but in this show, it's really Sam Wilson and James Buchanan. We get, James Buchanan at his essence, what he is, and it's just truly an incredible and wonderful ride. And like I said, this is something that I truly enjoyed. And it really goes to show that, despite their costumes, despite their adventure, Marvel is giving us two superheroes that at the end of the day, they realize that in order to save the world, they must first save themselves. And that right there is just incredible and very powerful, the overall message. And I genuinely feel that this is a show that Steve Rogers, if he could look back on and he could watch, he would really be proud of these two characters and how far they've come, and to know that, your kids are all right. They're doing okay. So I truly enjoyed this show. I hope that you'll enjoy it as well. It comes out tomorrow. I'll be back. We're going to have a deep dive discussion into the first episode. And another thing, it's not a spoiler, but I will say this: there is an oh my God moment. If you have not really been following all of the leaks, which I please don't look at the leaks because it spoils everything, but there is an oh my God moment that's like, I was ready to fight everybody in the show. I was ready to fight the actual government, um, jokingly. But it was like, this is such a disrespectful moment for what you did to someone. And I felt that that was extremely strong and powerful. And because of that, there aren't any after credits, at least not what have I seen, but there aren't any after credits because that scene is so, for me, it was literally a gasp of what they did. But again, it's grounded in reality so much that it makes sense, and it also furthers along the story, not for the sake of an oh my God moment, but a sake of something where the world has to move on. How do we get the world to move on? Everyone is looking for hope. Who's going to give us hope, and how do we accomplish that? And that, it's very smart thinking from everyone, the team over at Marvel Studios. And I truly enjoyed it. And I hope that you guys enjoy it soon. So thank you for taking your time out to watch this video. And I'll be back to talk about the first episode and a nice deep dive spoiler discussion. If I can figure out